What's up, everybody? Welcome to the AllSooners Podcast. Wednesday afternoon, sort of, almost, kind of. We're a little behind August 30th, episode 202 of the AllSooners Podcast coming at you. So, from Ryan's end in Moore, from my end in Tulsa. I'm John Hoover. He's Ryan Chapman. And we got a lot to talk about. Because why? Because it's freaking game week. Let's go. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. I'm very excited. Something we'll talk about a little bit later. It feels like everyone is tired of talking about this team and is ready to see this team. We'll talk about that with Brent Venables, with us. But Saturday is the first step, right? This has been one of the most highly watched off seasons, I think, boss, because of the disaster on field that was last year, plus how pivotal next year is going to be. This final year in the Big 12 bridge year, get it going. Starts Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, God's time, at the Palace on the Prairie.
We are jacked, just absolutely jacked to be in the stadium, in the press box, on the sideline in Randall's case, watching live football and evaluating how guys are actually playing full speed against other dudes. We've been doing this for a month now where we get to go watch 20 minutes of practice or 40 minutes of practice, and they're just kind of going through grabbing each other's shoulder pads and holding on for a couple of seconds, and then the coach yells at them for something. We love that, but it's not real football. It's just been cool. It's going to be amazing to get to the game, to watch the game, to do our little thing. Because like Ryan said, coaches are tired of talking about it. Players are tired of talking about it. We're tired of asking the same questions. We've been doing this for, like I said, if you go back to Big 12 Media Days, 6 weeks now. How much can you learn in 6 weeks about a football team if they're not actually playing any games, right? Everything is guesswork at this point. So, but we got some news yesterday that kind of eliminates the guesswork, or at least maybe reduces it down a little bit, the guesswork. And that is the depth chart came out. No big surprise that it came out when it did. Brent Venables and his staff don't want to have to hash and rehash every week. Oh, who's on the depth chart and why did this player climb that player? So you save it till the last minute, and that way you don't have to talk about it for 6 weeks, right? We could ask Brent Venables about the depth chart at Big 12 Media Days or at OU Media Day or anytime in between. And he would say, I don't know, we don't have a depth chart yet, right? That's all you got to do. So now, boys and girls, we got a depth chart. Shall we, Ryan, dive in to the 2023 Oklahoma Sooners Arkansas State pregame depth chart? It's right here in my hand. I feel like Karnak the Great on the Johnny Carson show. I've got all the names. I've got the lists right here. I got offense and defense. So
what does that make me that has all the names right here on a very different form?
Yeah.
I guess generational divide, or the fact that I actually just couldn't find my paper copy. I think it's out in my car in the parking lot.
You left it on that table yesterday. I'm telling you, there was a folded up depth chart. And I said, whose depth chart is this? I got mine. I said, okay, if you're sure.
It's in here, boss. It's in here.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like.
I told you I was going to go rush and get it tattooed to the inside of my forearm. So that
right up here under your bicep, so you can just kind of peel it back and look.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be good. Let's start with quarterback, shall we? No surprise. Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Arnold. Third guy is Davis Bevell. Again, no surprise. Let's move to running back. How about that one? That's where we're really starting. Marcus Major and Tawee Walker are your co-starters, or I should say Marcus Major or parentheses Tawee Walker are your co-starters at running back. The backups are Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk. The two guys who we thought were going to be the co-starters are the co-backups. What do you make of that one, Ryan?
I would make of it that this is the depth chart for Arkansas State, and that by the end of the year, Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes, not in that order, I would flip it, will lead the Sooners in carries. But Brent Venables, I think he talked about it right off the top. He was asked about Tawee Walker immediately, and the first top of mind thing that he talked about is he's physical, but also he's available. Best ability is availability. He got to that quote as well. And I think it illustrates, we know that Gavin Sawchuk has missed a little bit of time in camp. Not anything major, but he talked about that he was just out for a couple of days. There was that open practice viewing where he was not going through individual drills and stuff like that. And Javonte Barnes recovering from the little foot cleanup procedure he had in the spring. I think this is Oklahoma saying, if we're going to have depth and we're going to preach competitive depth, and we have a guy who is talented enough to play at Oklahoma because Oklahoma offered him to play in Tawee Walker, who has done everything the coach has asked of him and has been available every single day in camp. If you don't reward that, then what's the competition about? What's the competition for? Guys know that I'm just going to start. I'm penciled in. That's how an old staff operated. So I think it's something that a huge story for Tawee Walker. It really incredible for him. We got to talk to him, and he's a really exceptional individual. I really enjoyed that. The coaches have always mentioned Tawee Walker as like, hey, don't forget him as well. And I think it shows that Oklahoma is happy with Tawee Walker and feels confident in him. But still, by the end of the year, I would still expect Barnes and Sawchuk, if both those guys are healthy, which they're healthy going into this season. Like we said, it's not major. They're going to be healthy going into Saturday. I think they'll still lead Oklahoma in carries.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Talking to Tawee yesterday, I think for the first time, maybe we got him after the spring game last year. Maybe. I can't remember exactly, but I think yesterday might have been the first time we talked to him, and very revealing, very open young man. My favorite part about his conversation, we wrote about it at AllSooners.com today. Check it out. Is he'll give you the video interview as well as the full quotes. He talked about being hard-headed when he first got here. He talked about not taking coaching, and DeMarco Murray is in your face, grab your face mask, cuss you out, got the spittle going and everything. That's how DeMarco coaches. That's his style. He was coached that way. He's going to coach his guys that way. It works for some people. It turns some people off. Tawee Walker thought, he doesn't like me. His first year here, DeMarco doesn't like me. He was being persecuted by his position coach. Not true, of course. That's just the way DeMarco tries to coach as many guys. Maybe not every guy, because he's trying to gauge who can take that kind of coaching and who can't. Obviously, Tawee Walker is a guy who can take that kind of coaching. That's the cool part of it, is he took it, he embraced it finally after thinking, well, my coach hates me, I'll never play here. He kept working, he kept his nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and he turned around, and here we are, season opener of 2023. He's the co-starter. I don't know how many carries he's going to get, 2 or 3, 8 or 10, 15. He's a short, compact, 5'9", 210, 215-pound guy who is hard to bring down. I think it was Jaleel Farouk, who's a wide receiver, so what does he know? He said if I was on defense, I could tackle him. But he said basically that Tawee Walker is a guy who the first guy never tackles him in practice. And he said sometimes it takes all 11. He's hard to get down. He's a bowling ball. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And if it is just Arkansas State and he has that moment, that's going to be awesome because his 2-year-old son's going to be here. His child's mother's going to be here. Her family's going to be here. His dad's going to be home watching on TV. His brother's got a game in Texas, so he's not going to be able – his mom is watching his brother's game in Texas down in Kingsville. So she's not going to be here, but that family is just going crazy with the fact that here's a walk-on who went to junior college, who bet on himself, and now they're starting the season, and he's co-starter. That's cool. The devil's advocate side of it, Ryan, and everybody's going to click off the podcast, so maybe I shouldn't say this right now. You got a walk-on at running back. You got a walk-on at receiver. You got another walk-on at receiver, right? Oh, my gosh. I know all those guys, 2 of those 3 guys are on scholarship. Flip it over to the defense, you've got 2 more walk-ons. Justin Harrington and Jaron Canick technically were walk-ons, right? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, the OU's got talent. Fear not. The Sooners have athletic ability and talent and athletic scholarships. They're going to be fine. Ryan, the big question that we'll get to in segment 2, but I want to broach it here and preview it, is what can OU show in this game? What can OU prove in this game? We'll talk about it in segment 2. The other position that shook out, I should say, let's just do the tight ends and offensive line together. No surprise at all. Offensive line or tight end. Unless I'm missing somebody as a backup. True freshman Caden Green is the backup left tackle. I expected that. Nate Anderson, fourth year junior, is behind Savion Byrd at left guard. Troy Everett is behind Andrew Rame at center. McCade Matauer is the starter at right guard, and Caleb Schaefer, the transfer from Miami, Ohio, is the backup. And at right tackle, you've got Tyler Guyton as the starter. Of course, we knew that. Jake Taylor is the backup, and Aaron Parks is on there as well, which is kind of interesting in itself. And then, of course, the tight end position, we know Austin Stogner and we know Blake Smith. And then you get into the other guys, Josh Fanuel or Cade McIntyre, true freshman. So that'll be interesting if they have to go jumbo, who comes in first. But your thoughts on the big boys up front?
Yeah, this is something that I think the headline takeaway is not just that it's what we expected, but coming into camp, what did Jeff Lebby basically say from the podium? This exact depth chart minus Savion Byrd at left guard. And I kind of took that as the challenge of go win the job. And we heard McCade Matauer talk about it through camp of staying on Savion and things like that, as far as it's one thing to do it in a bowl game versus to be that prepared for 12 weeks straight, all that stuff. And like we're going to talk about at linebacker on the other side of the ball, challenge laid out, challenge answered, at least through fall camp. Savion Byrd went out and won that job. There is no or. We'll have a similar conversation with Jaron Kanik alongside Danny Stutzman at linebacker. But I think for me, that was just the biggest thing. And I just still can't help but look down this tight end roster and ask, was there another senior out there that Oklahoma could have gone out to acquire to pair with Austin Stogner to give this room a little bit of depth? Now, so they're going through that. You couldn't have foreseen that it was going to be a lost spring for Helms and the Wellen physically with the injuries. But looking back now, there is no depth. It's just not there. Blake Smith's caught, 2-3 career passes total. Oklahoma needs those wide receivers, needs that running back room to be deep, because it doesn't look like they're going to have that, at least to start, at tight end.
Yeah, I agree. Josh Fanuel, I think Joe John Finley said it in the spring, or maybe he said it, I think it was late in the spring. It was one of the last practices before the spring game. Said that he told him, Antonio Gates didn't play college football either. Antonio Gates came in and, was a Pro Football Hall of Famer after playing college basketball, right? He said he's got that kind of athletic ability. Okay. One played at Cal, the other one played at Cameron University in Lawton. One played Division I, high-level Pac-12 basketball, Pac-10 basketball. The other one played Division II. So maybe not that kind of athletic ability, but I see where he's going. What I'm getting at is they really like him as an option. Now, has he ever done anything like this before? Has he ever stood on the field with 85,000 fans cheering his name? Absolutely not. So he's going to be kind of blown away and lost in the moment. But if athletically speaking, if he can step into that role, I think they're going to be okay. Let's talk about the other pass catchers. Wide receiver, no real surprise, other than maybe a little bit of a surprise, although if you read the scrimmage reports, not that big a surprise. Andrell Anthony is the starter. I think some people and a lot of people around here expected Gavin Freeman to be the third starter. And frankly, he's going to be the fourth starter. When they go four wides, I think it's going to be Freeman. He's going to be Drake Stoops' backup as the slot receiver. That makes sense. Everything about that makes sense. He's a little bit, when you talk about Drake Stoops' speed and elusiveness, Freeman comes in, he's faster, he's more elusive, more explosive, stronger, better balance, all that stuff. He's kind of a change of pace guy at that slot receiver. He can do some, stuff across the middle, obviously, some check down stuff, some screen stuff, some tunnel screens. Can also do the jet sweeps. Probably better than Stoops can. So a little bit of a change of pace. I think that's an exciting option for the OU offense.
Yeah, when you sift through it, too, I'm not sure that the wide receiver depth chart, as far as only having 3 nail on, has mattered less, maybe, because of Emmett Jones's philosophy that he demands every wide receiver to be able to play every spot in the formation. So that offers and affords, like you're saying, Hoove, If they want to get Freeman and Stoops and Farouk on the field together with a 4 wide set, they'll be able to do that. If they want to get Andrew Anthony and Nick Anderson and Jaden Gibson out there with Jalil Farouk and go really big bodies, they'll be able to do that too if those guys earn those reps. I thought it was pretty telling that LV Bunkley Shelton, who I think has gone really under talked about and I think has just had a really steady camp, was an or with Jaden Gibson, showing that, again, we've heard a ton about Jaden Gibson. For him, I think it's just he needs to see the ball stick to his hands and have a couple of catches. And I think that Oklahoma should probably force feed him a little bit against Arkansas State and maybe Tulsa as opposed to SMU, just to say, hey, build that confidence back up since you've had no real track record, a couple of drops in like a spring game and TCU, not a ton of just experience to go off of. Get him some confidence early so he can transform to the player that I think this coaching staff believes he can be.
Yeah, and possibly. So one of the questions that Jeff Lebby got asked was about how deep the wide receivers are going to be. He said he anticipates playing 6 or 7 guys. I asked a follow-up question. I said, could that over the course of the season stretch to 8 or 9? You look at the depth chart. He said, yes, it absolutely could. But you look at the depth chart that they offered us. Nick Anderson is behind Farouk, and DJ Graham, converted cornerback, is behind Nick Anderson. Now, question becomes, if everybody stays healthy, how much does DJ Graham actually play? I don't know. How much does who's the third wide receiver, Jaden Gibson or LV Bunkley Shelton on the other side, or in the slot, Jaquez Petaway? How much does he actually play if everybody stays healthy? If there's injuries, then you have to play and you have to get guys ready to go and all that. But if everybody stays healthy, who knows? Jeff Lebby wants to go fast. All right. Jeff Lebby wants to run a lot of plays. Jeff Lebby wants to throw it a healthy amount. There's no doubt. And Jeff Lebby wants to throw the deep ball. To me, that portends that there's going to be a lot of snaps for the wide receivers, a lot of substituting, a lot of guys running go balls and then coming to the sideline. Another guy comes in, goes straight to the formation. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all that they play 9 guys this year, and 9 guys are catching passes.
Yeah, that'll be the huge question, right? Is you saw DJ Graham, he's been a little banged up. Brennan Thompson did not appear on the depth chart. He's been banged up as well. I think that a lot of the reason why those guys are where they're at, especially with just the unknown that both of them are. My big question for the wide receivers is just going to be, okay, if Oklahoma's in a bunch of really close games like they were last year and Jeff Lebby wants to go fast, outside of that specific situation where they're trying to stretch the field and it doesn't land, how much subbing is actually going to happen? Because part of last year is that I don't think they trusted a bunch of wide receivers. I think the other part of it is that they were going so fast, whatever wide receivers started the drive outside of when they did the weird, like, throw the second unit in plus Gabriel for 2 drives or whatever. No one subbed because they were like, we're going to go one formation and we're going to go till it's either a touchdown or a punt, all in 90 seconds.
And they did that a lot. And most times it was a punt.
Yes. Yeah, they got their fair share of both, which I think punting might be an adventure this year for the Sooners. When you have 3 oars, I think that is not a good thing.
I was going to say, Brent Venables didn't really commit to a punter. We look at the depth chart, and there are 3 oars, 2 oars with 3 position players. They're going to. We can talk about special teams later. We can talk about special teams now, but it looks like they brought in Elzinga, remember, from Central Michigan, because of his natural talent to pin the ball deep in the corner, coffin corner kicks, pooch punts. Jay Nunez called it pooch punts because last year they tried some pooch punts and the ball went through the end zone several times. So lost field position. Brent Venables said they get the ball at the 20, 25-yard line and turn around and score a touchdown. That happened 10 times last year. Can't have that. He wants the defense to be able to pin their ears back and knock guys backwards toward the end zone when they're pinned inside the 10. So that's why they have a pooch punter now, and they're going to let Josh Plaster hit the long ones. Or Reddy. I'm just going to call him Reddy because I'm afraid I'll butcher his last name. So sorry, Reddy. But 3 guys at punter. They're going to. I would guess they're going to use two. OU is going to be one of those teams that, every team has a punting statistic and it's one guy. OU is going to be that one of those rare teams that has two guys with 28 punts each or something like that. One averages 44 yards and the other one averages 36.
Shout out to Reddy Mustafa Raj. There you go. Let's make it happen.
Raj, thank you.
Thank you to soccer. That name is. You'd be surprised how much how less afraid of names you are when you just exist in the soccer world. Now, at punting, Oklahoma's basically what they're going to trade is Michael Turk had a huge leg and there was not a lot of finesse to that situation. He was great when you're pinned deep into your own end zone. We saw he was over and over and over again putting the ball too close to the goal line, and he didn't stick on a roster in the NFL. With a leg like that, that usually means one thing. It's that you can only kick it and you can't conform to all the different situations. Because Pat McAfee will tell you punting is more of an art form than just kicking the ball as hard as you can. And Turk was incredible at that. I think you're going to flip that for better situational punting. But if Oklahoma sputters on their own 25, it may be a big field position nightmare just because I don't know if they're going to have the kind of cannon to bail you out of a situation like that, which is where Turk really excelled.
Yeah, no, that's right. Kickoffs, Zach Schmidt is the man. Place kicks, field goals, PATs, Zach Schmidt has won the job. There is no or on the kicker situation. On long snapper, it's Ben Anderson. He's the long snapper, and there is no or. On the holder, it's Josh Plaster. Okay, there is no or. Punt returns is Freeman or LV Bunkley Shelton, and then the third guy is Drake Stoops. That's punt returns. Kickoff returns, they got this one right. They got three guys listed, and we don't know who's going to get the most of them. Billy Bowman, Jaleel Farouk, and Peyton Bowen, who are two of the three I would absolutely say are definitely game breakers. Bowman and Bowen. We watched them in high school take kickoff and punts and interceptions and fumbles back for touchdowns. Both those guys are going to be dynamic. And then Farouk basically did it last year. So those are the three names I would have actually said. Those are your three kickoff return candidates. That was the one position I think I got right. So who knows?
Well, and Brent Middles was asked about Billy Bowman. Was he concerned at all with the injury he picked up last year? And Brent kind of laughed and was like, the paraphrase of that was, we were 6-7 last year. We can't afford to save guys on special teams. Yeah. And I was actually talking with Eddie today that I was like, Oklahoma in 2008 with DeMarco Murray and it costing them a national championship is a much different situation than Oklahoma in 2022-23 with whatever the hell that team was last year. Like Brent Venables is saying, they're looking for 2 yards anywhere they can get it. And so, yeah. And Billy Bowman's a guy, too, that he was kind of asked. Him and Peyton Bowen were both asked about special teams during camp. They're just like, yes, please, ball, my hands.
Hey,
absolutely.
And the fact of the matter is they've got Key Lawrence. They've got Reggie Pearson. They've got guys that they can roll at safety if Billy Bowman sprains an ankle or something, has to miss a couple of games because he returned a kickoff, right? I mean, they've got some depth at safety now. They didn't have it last year, so a little bit more urgency, even though, yes, 6-7. What's the point? Also, DeMarco, all he did was set the school record for all-purpose yards. Why wouldn't you have him returning kickoff? The dude was exceptional at it. So,
well, I would say because you didn't have him to go to war with Percy Harvin. I think that is why you don't have DeMarco Murray.
Yeah.
When the offense was scoring from anywhere, as much as we bagged Lincoln Riley for his just screw that, we're going to go and score points. In 2008, screw that, they were going to go and score points.
Yes, if I think the right guard doesn't step the wrong way on that goal line, on that fourth down goal line play, what's his name? Chris
Brown.
Yes, Chris Brown would have scored easily.
Of Rihanna fame. No, the other Chris Brown.
The other Chris Brown. He would have scored easily. They would have, I think, taken the lead on that instead of a fourth down stop right there. Anyway.
Or,
way back,
hear me out, Sam Bradford, Jermaine Gresham, try that once. Maybe, on the goal line.
Not on the goal line.
And as often does, the depth chart reveal turns into a rehash of the 2008.
Hey, we got Tulsa's coming up on the schedule. Maybe we can ask Kevin Wilson about that goal line sequence at some point. He might not appreciate that.
Well, you fans are like, what is? No, Kevin, not again.
Did you watch the? Is it Netflix that did the Gators swamp creatures or whatever they are? Yes.
Yeah, I did not watch it because it was basically an Urban Meyer Levapalooza.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I watched some outtakes or some highlights or whatever, some clips, excerpts. And one of the excerpts was the Florida safety coming across and just decapitating Manny Johnson, which, of course, as we all know now, is targeting an ejection from the game. But back then, totally legal to try to kill a guy, to take a knife out of your sock and stab him in the heart while he's trying to catch a pass.
Learn that from Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, and I mean, two Sam Bradford interceptions were in the hands of the receivers, and they've ended up in the air and taken out of the air by the defense. So I'll go to my grave saying that Florida team was talent-wise was way better. And that Oklahoma team was loaded now, don't get me wrong. But that Florida team was elite, all-time, exceptional. And yet I thought Oklahoma had every opportunity to win the game. We got to get to the defensive side.
I was going to say, second segment, we're going to go 2009, Landry Jones in Lincoln, 5 interceptions. We're going to rehash that one in the second segment.
And Ndamukong Suh throwing poor Stephen Good like a sack of potatoes.
Poor Stephen Good.
Hey, let's jump to the second segment. I'll give you my favorite quote of the preseason. It is spectacular, and it might not be who you think it's from. Be from who you think it's from. It was the best quote I've had doing this in, I think, several years from a player. And I'll give it to you coming up next. Plus, we're going to do the defensive depth chart all next on the AllSooners podcast. If you're on Twitter, which I will not call X, I would ask that you give us a follow at all_Sooners. That's the AllSooners official Twitter feed. You can find me at Johnny Hoover. Not Johnny Football, John E. Hoover, which I watched that Johnny Football documentary too. That was actually pretty good. Very revealing. Follow Ross at Ross Lovelace. Follow Randall at Randall Sweet 5. Follow Ryan at _Ryan Chapman. And follow Tim at Tim Willert 2. All of our guys are on Twitter. All of them contribute. All of them post. All of them are very active. And what does that make it, Ryan? 5? We got 5 dudes covering OU football?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I had to do a count. I was like, I've been so used to 3 forever that it's all reformed.
The website, of course, is allsooners.com. That is our website, allsooners.com, Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. And it is free to use, free to click, free read. No passwords, no emails, no signups, no credit cards. All Sooners is all free and always will be as long as I'm publishing that bad boy. Ryan, I'm going to give you my favorite quote before we dive into the defensive depth chart. It's from Ethan Downs, who is usually eloquent but very reserved with his quotations. Ethan Downs said, PJ Adebawore is like Avatar. He's like the blue Avatar. And I thought that might be like the perfect summation of what PJ compared to what the other players on his team. He looks like an 8-foot blue guy. He's that much different, that much more athletic, that much more imposing, that much more impressive when he steps off the bus or walks out of the locker room. You see PJ and you go, who's that dude? Who's 34? Avatar. Brilliant.
Orlando Brown is jealous of his tail as well, but they do a good job of keeping that nice and tucked away so he can play football. But no, I'm excited to see him. And I get if you look at the depth chart and you're like, okay, everyone freaked out about this kind of defender that Oklahoma has landed. Biggest recruiting win since XXX. Now it's David Stone. Biggest recruiting win since all that. I don't think it matters much that he's the third guy, because when you look at this defensive end, defensive tackle depth chart, I think that these guys are going to rotate a bunch. Yep. And I think of that position more than any, you can get 3 guys deep and feel pretty good about saying, I think that guy's going to rotate in the first half of games when they matter, much less a ton of mop-up duty, you would think, against the likes of an Arkansas State, certainly a Tulsa, perhaps an SMU.
If you count OU Media Day as preseason, I still think it's my favorite quote, the Avatar quote. But if you count OU Media Day as like off season, like the divide, like practice hasn't started yet, then my favorite quote of the off season was also about PJ Adebawore. When Miguel Chavis said he's longer than Monday afternoon. You put those two quotes together, he's longer than Monday afternoon. He is a blue avatar. I'm like, this guy's got to play at some point. This guy has to get in there, pin your ears back, see ball, hit ball. I can't wait to see it. Let's do the defensive end depth chart rundown. On one side, you've got Rondell Bothroyd, the transfer from Wake Forest, who we all predicted would be the starter because he's coming off some seriously good numbers at Wake Forest. He's stepping in here, and he's got lots of experience. And we got to watch him a couple of times in the open practices. You go down there and you watch him, how he strikes those bags and how he pushes those sleds and how he interacts with his teammates. You can see that guy is DE1, so to speak. Behind him is Mason Thomas, who had an impact last year. I looked up his numbers. They weren't overwhelming, but as a true freshman, he came in last year, had an impact. So you figure he's going to be a guy that comes in and gets some relief snaps. Okay, go in there and hold the edge for a couple of series. And then the third guy is PJ Adebawore, who is, okay, it's 3rd and 6. We think they're going to throw. Go get the quarterback. That's going to be his role this year. However many times they need a 3rd down stop, a pressure or a batted ball or something like that to come in and shut down, force a punt, hold the edge on 3rd down, force a punt, and get the ball back to the offense. That didn't happen last year. That was the number one bugaboo for this defense last year. Adebawore, a lot of pressure on a freshman, but not too much. Like, you don't have to hold the edge on 1st down. You don't have to take on that big blocker on 2nd down. We want you to go in on 3rd down and sack the quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. And now Oklahoma suddenly has options, right? Back to R. Mason Thomas, if you're looking at those numbers and go, okay, I remember his impact being bigger. Well, remember that was a guy that did not have spring football either, right? In 2022, he arrived in the summer, was pretty light, and then had that hamstring. He had, quote, a slight hamstring. It's always my favorite injury classification is that R. Mason Thomas has acquired one slight hamstring per Brent Venables, but that cost him a couple of games there in the middle. But now suddenly, yeah, if it's 3rd and long, Trace Ford, who we're going to talk about on the other side of that defensive line, R. Mason Thomas, PJ Adebawore. Oklahoma has options to throw in there and actually get after and rush the passer. And outside of the non-conference last year, that was just not something like Ethan Downs holds up well in the run. He's fine rushing the passer, but that's not like his specialty. Reggie Grimes was not very present at all in conference play last year. You certainly weren't getting anything from the interior. A lot of the pressure was schemed, blitzing, things like that. Now you have guys that Oklahoma hopes will be able to get after the quarterback without having to scheme an extra guy free, where that can just be Brent Venables having fun as opposed to trying to manufacture a pass rush.
Yeah, well said. Let's jump to the other defensive end before we go into the tackles. Ethan Downs is the starter, or, right, Trace Ford. Interesting. The Oklahoma State transfer coming off a serious injury, coming off an off season where he rehabbed that injury, and literally that was the question. He couldn't participate a bunch in spring, but literally that was the question: how much can you go? He's the or guy with your all Big 12 returning starter, Ethan Downs. I find that interesting.
I think that'll play out just like this: running downs, Ethan Downs. Passing down, Trace Ford. And I think that's kind of be how that goes, especially as they try to keep Trace Ford as fresh as possible for conference play. I would imagine that's the thing. But I saw some people, mainly from Stillwater, going, oh, look, Trace Ford, that's a guy that transferred and he's not even named a starter. But Brent Venables talked about, first off, again, not super available in the spring as he was rehabbing. But secondly, that's a guy that started at the bottom of the depth chart and through spring, summer, and fall camp before his best attribute, the pass rush, can really show up on Saturdays. It's hard to simulate that in a scrimmage when all the quarterbacks have blue shirts. He's already fought his way up to be a co-starter. I think that Trace Ford, if he stays healthy, he's going to be just fine for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Behind Ethan Downs on the defensive end side and Trace Ford. You've got last year's returning starter. You've already talked about him several times. Reggie Grimes as the third string guy behind the guy that he was the bookends with last year. So that's interesting to me as well. It's Reggie Grimes or Marcus Stripling, and then the true freshman Taylor Wine is the fifth guy in the defensive end rotation. Little bit of interesting stuff there. I'm going to go over some snap counts here in a minute. But let's go to the interior. And here's the deal with this. We're going to throw out 9 names for 2 positions on the defensive line, on the interior defensive line. That sounds like a good amount of depth and experience and rotation and keeping guys fresh, right? But how much is Brent going to opt for the 3-man front? So we're talking about 9 guys at whether it's the defensive tackle or the nose, the 3 technique or the 0. We're talking about 9 potential candidates there for one position. All of a sudden you start to say, wait a minute, this might be a little too competitive. So it's up to Brent whether he wants to play the 4-man front or the 3-man front, and he's going to probably feel a lot better about playing the 4-man front this year because those guys on the interior are better. I think it was my buddy Travis Davidson who put out the tweet of last year's interior defensive line versus this year's interior defensive line. This side averaged 289 pounds, I think. This side averaged 300. The difference was 10 pounds per man. 10 pounds per man. So you got bulkier, stronger, more physical defensive line this year. So my suspicion is that Brent's going to play more 4-man. Before we go into the names, Ryan, what do you think about that theory of mine?
I think that you're just going to see a lot of both because Brent Venables, that's what he was last year when he didn't have the personnel. Now he has personnel to play both. Because when you look at the frontline guys at nose, Isaiah Coe and DJ Terry, both not just over 300, but well over 300, 311 for Coe, 321 for Terry. That's just a piece that they were missing last year, was a space eater like that. But yeah, I think that the defensive line is going to be a lot more effective for many reasons this year. But the fact that they can flip between the odd and even front and just feel more comfortable at all that, I think that's going to be huge. Because, I mean, even Laulu's at 297. He's just a couple of pounds under 300.
Yeah. So last year, Reggie Grimes played 516 snaps on defense. Ethan Downs played 584. That's a lot when you think about the linebackers who all played 900 snaps or more. It's not too much, but it's a lot. Jonah Laulu at defensive end last year played 465, and that's kind of it. R. Mason Thomas got a few 230 snaps. Marcus Stripling got 245. Trace Ford at Oklahoma State got 263. When he was at Wake Forest, Rondell Bothroyd got 468. And when he was an edge rusher, this changes a little bit, but when he was an edge rusher at Indiana, Deshaun McCulloch got 477 snaps on the edge. So these are all Pro Football Focus numbers. What you're seeing there is Downs and Grimes have a good 100 or more snaps than the guys that they're now sharing snaps with or being backed up by or competing with. So don't make the mistake for a second thinking that the depth is not better. The depth is way better this year than it was last year.
Yeah, and now just real interesting to see. We saw 2 years ago what rotation for the sake of rotation looked like. I remember how many times were we having the conversation of why is the second string defensive line in a crucial third down in Waco when you have to like get a stop to try and save your playoff hopes, all that stuff.
That was an Alex Grinch special, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so this year, I think what you're going to see is sensical where, hey, there's rotation. And also if Rondell Bothroyd and Trace Ford are playing the 2 best on 3rd and 2, that's probably who's going to be there in the fourth quarter. Like, I think that's what's going to get married is rotation plus sensical. If it's Downs and Bothroyd, those guys are going to be in there in the fourth quarter. Whoever's playing best that day is going to get the most snaps.
It was the Tulane game when Tulane was coming back to try to from a 3-touchdown deficit or 17, whatever it was, and they were coming back and they were driving, and me and you were just going, what are they doing on defense?
And it was that they busted off. Baylor busted off that huge touchdown run, and we're looking back, and it's like those were the second string linebackers that missed the gaps. Like,
yeah,
what did you expect?
yeah. That Tulane game was an eye opener as to what Alex Grinch either knew or didn't know, thought he knew or didn't know about his defensive line, because he subbed all 4 guys, pulled them all out, and brought in 4 guys who were career backups, and they just got housed. Touchdown Tulane, onside kick, and they're still in, and it's like we're just like, what are they doing? Golly. Okay, so we've been to the Orange Bowl and we've been to the Tulane game. Maybe we should stick to the depth chart.
Stay tuned to see where we take you next.
I got some thoughts. I got some ideas.
You want to go linebacker next? How about that?
I got some numbers for you. Don't let me forget these numbers before we finish this segment, because these are fun numbers that I'll just reveal them later. Let's go defensive tackle and nose tackle. All right, Jonah Laulu or Jordan Kelly are listed as the starters at D tackle at 3 technique. And at the nose, you've got Isaiah Coe, who that was my lock to start because he's got tons of experience and his shoulders are like 7 feet wide, and he's a massive human being. 311 pounds. DeJoun Terry, the transfer from Tennessee by Kansas, he's listed as the co-starter with Isaiah Coe. So to me, you put Laulu, who was a defensive end last year, you put some bulk on him, 289 pounds. Jordan Kelly, who's a fifth year senior, I think. I don't think sixth year, but I have to look that up. Those are some talented guys. Those are some experienced guys. Those are some guys who know what to do in that position. I like the starters. The backups are Jacob Lacey, who is on this depth chart as the backup to the starting position. We didn't know from some off-season stories. Brent Venables talked about his blood clots. We didn't know how much he was going to be able to play, but he's the number 3 guy. He went through the entire preseason, not the entire preseason, but parts of the preseason with a blue no contact jersey on, right? Don't strain yourself too much if you've got blood clots. That's the lesson there, I guess. But he's available now. So that's great news, the transfer from Notre Dame. Grayson Halton, who had 2 sacks in the red-white game, is the 4th guy. Or Ashton, I should say he's the 3rd guy. Or, no, he is the 4th guy. 4th guy along with Devon Sears. Like, I'm looking at these names, and we'll see. Again, you have to hold your water a little bit here, but we'll see on the productivity. We'll see what they do on game day. But I'm just saying, based on what these guys have done in the past, based on some of their performances here and there, based on their performances at other schools, golly, this defensive line looks good.
Well, in the middle there, they don't have to be all Big 12 guys. Like, in a few years, they're going to need an all-SEC performer at the heart of that defensive line. They potentially are trying to recruit those guys right now, as you're going to talk about with Randall in the 3rd segment. But for this year, they just need to provide as clean a picture as possible for a rookie middle linebacker and Jaron Kanik behind him. And if that just means that Coe and Terry can't get moved because they are just so massive, even if they're not just wrecking shop in the backfield, that's going to be an improvement over what the defensive line play was last year. You talk about beefing up the edges as well. Then suddenly you're not getting folded at the point of attack if people try to string you out wide. And it doesn't sound sexy. I didn't really sell it, but that is a huge improvement over what Oklahoma had up front last year. You pair that with the talent that's coming behind, and that's the step they need to take this year. And having that many bodies too means, hey, Jordan Kelly, if you happen to miss something on this play, not picking on Jordan Kelly, just a hypothetical, guess what, buddy? You can come stand right by Todd Bates and you can throw the next guy in. And if he gets it right, then you can say, see, study film, get it going or not. And that was not something that Oklahoma could do at many positions last year, all across the entire team, much less defensive line.
Yeah, you're right. So at the nose, it's Coe and Terry. We talked about those 2 guys. The 3rd guy is Kelvin Gilliam or Ashton Sanders. So a true freshman or a redshirt sophomore who hasn't really played a whole ton yet. I guess that's good. That to me indicates that they're not going to rotate a ton at the nose. You're going to play those probably 2 front line guys at most. And who knows on that 3 technique, if somebody maybe like a Jacob Lacey slides over into that nose tackle spot at the last second before a snap or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Again, it's easy to get excited in preseason about you think this guy's going to be good, yeah, but it's also easy to drink the Kool-Aid and from all these interviews and all these press conferences and guys telling us, and by virtue of telling us, they're telling the fans, we've had a great preseason. We've had a fantastic preseason. We really like our team. We like the character and we like the ability and we like the talent. Okay. We're going to have to see it on the field. And as Ryan said at the top, the 3 games that we're going to see in the preseason might not carry over into what we see in the conference season. 3-0 in preseason last year, 3-6 in Big 12 play last year. We bought we bit the hook. We bought the line. We drank the Kool-Aid, whatever you want to say. That 3-0 non-conference season last year was a bit of a mirage, and we'll have to see how that shapes up. Linebackers, Ryan, no surprise, of course. Jaren Kanak and Danny Stutzman are the starting linebackers. Before we get into Cheetah, let's go through the linebackers. Connor Neer, the transfer from Ferris State, almost said App State. Ferris State is the backup at Mike, and he's backed up by redshirt freshman Kobe McKenzie and true freshman Phil Picciotti. Behind Stutzman, you've got Kip Lewis as the number 2. So that's interesting. 206-pound Kip Lewis is your backup weak side linebacker. Then you got Lewis Carter, true freshman, or redshirt junior, who's actually an academic senior by far. Shane Witter and Owen Heineke is the 5th name on that list. So a lot of linebackers for 2 spots. Ryan, the Cheetah position has been won, at least for the first snap of the Arkansas State game. Season opener has been won by Justin Harrington over Dasan McCullough. Surprised?
Surprise? No, not based off what we've heard about Justin Harrington all through fall camp, that he's had a really good camp. And you pair that with what Dasan McCullough told us at the end of spring football last year, which is he's been asked to do a lot of different things than when he played defensive end in Indiana. Like it's a totally different position. And he was like, I'm putting in the work. I'm going to come along, but he's like, I'll probably be learning into the season. So I don't think that's a huge shock there. And I think that you're going to see the Cheetah be what was sold to us last year, which is instead of just Deshaun White playing it 100% of the time, if it's a passing situation and a 3rd and long, welcome to the club, Justin Harrington. If you're ready to get after you need to stop the run on a 2nd and short, feels like a McCullough situation. Like they'll be able to rotate that through, and hopefully from the coaching staff's perspective, they'll have a strong spine in the middle of that defense with Danny Stutzman and Jaren Kanak. Those 2 guys can cover a lot of ground if they're playing well and they're understanding what they see in front of them. Stutzman did a great job of that toward the end of the year. Kanak, that's going to be the big unknown. First time playing linebacker, really, truly. Brent Venables talked about, like, when his great stuff last year, it was a lot of just him blitzing straight up. We were blitzing him, just let him go chase down after the football. So if there was one position on the entire team that I think could get bogged down mentally, outside of Stutzman, I think it could be the Cheetah and Kanak, the guys on either side of Stutzman, just because they're so new to everything that's going to be asked of them.
Here's my question. It's 3rd and 9. Do you run out a 216-pound safety or a 219-pound defensive end on 3rd and 9? Do you say we want to play coverage and defend against that slot receiver? Because he said Drake Stoops, Dasan McCullough said the hardest guy he's had to deal with all preseason is Drake Stoops. He just worked me over, he said, stuff like that, because of, he's sneaky and he's an inside slot receiver and he's all that. Dasan McCullough's out there trying to cover that guy. So do offenses go into the season, into the game, looking at, okay, this guy's not going to be able to cover our slot receivers. When he's out there, we're going to audible to a slot receiver play. Or with Justin Harrington out there, okay, we're not really sure what this guy's doing, if he's dropping or if he's blitzing. So we'll run away from him or do something, we'll audible away. Is it going to be that predictable to where those guys and they're like one does one thing and the other does something completely different?
And here's the wrinkle. This is the magic of Brent Venables when he has the guys. 3rd and 9, do you just pull a defensive lineman off the field? DJ Terry, Rondell Bothroyd, R. Mason Thomas, or Trace Ford, get after it, and you stick McCullough out there, and then you have 3 safeties on the field anyway, and you're able to mix in. Now, is McCullough dropping? Is he coming to get me? Wait, there's Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, and Reggie Pearson on the field, or Justin Harrington in that situation, or both on the field at the same. Like, there are a lot of questions. I think there's a lot that Oklahoma can do to mask intentions, as opposed to simply being, if McCullough's on the field, he's there to rush the passer. If Harrington's on the field, he's there to cover a tight end. I think that's what Brent Venables wants that to be.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about this later in the 3rd segment when we talk about recruiting, but one of the things that Venables' defense used to feature was 2004 when I first started covering these guys, was Dan Cody at defensive end, 6'5", 240-pound Dan Cody. Go get the quarterback, right? Okay, it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, whatever. Okay, Dan Cody, you're going to slide in to the defensive tackle spot, but you're going to be standing up, and you're going to be moving at the snap. You're going to be going left, or you're going to be going right. They called that the spinner. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. That's a Dasan McCullough special to me. You've got a guy with that kind of reach, that kind of explosion, that kind of athletic ability. That would be amazing to see him in that role. But we'll talk about the other guys listed at Cheetah are freshman Sammy Omosigo or Shane Witter. I think if it gets to those guys, they're probably going to start moving safeties like Reggie Pearson. Peyton Bowen played the position a little bit in the preseason. Maybe they didn't like what they saw out of those guys at that position, and so that's why they've changed the names at the bottom, but that's just my suspicion. DBs, we'll go over the easy ones. Billy Bowman wins the strong safety job. No surprise there. He's the returning starter. Free safety, it's Reggie Pearson, who we kind of thought would be the man, or Key Lawrence, who was the returning starter at free safety last year. So no surprise there. I think those guys, Robert Spears-Jennings is the 3rd guy. Again, no surprise. I think that's probably how we all expected it to shake down, especially as RJ's coming off that shoulder injury. The cornerbacks is let's do cornerbacks. Woody Washington at one side, obviously, 3-year starter, returning starter, got a bunch of experience. Josiah Wagner, who got all the attention and all the surprise run in preseason. Josiah Wagner is Woody Washington's backup, and that's probably a brilliant move, because you take a guy with that kind of attitude, that kind of ability, that kind of explosiveness and trash talk, and he just loves playing cornerback, right? He goes out there and knocks the hell out of guys who are way bigger than him, because he's got that little dog mentality in him, right? Like, he is not going to take anything from you just because you're bigger than him. You take that guy and you put him behind Woody Washington, right? And you let him learn and learn and learn and learn. And then next year, when Woody's gone, he is more than ready to step into that position. I want to talk about the other position, the other cornerback position, where Gentry Williams, the guy that we all said in the spring was going to win the job, it took him that long to do it, but Gentry Williams, Ryan, finally won the job.
Yeah, and there were 3 spots it felt like. We talked about Savion Burr. We talked about Jaron Kanek. Gentry Williams is another one of go and win the job, and there's actually a ton of competition there. And he might be one of the guys. I'm very curious to see what Jaron Kanek looks like, as a guy that just feels so much more confident talking to him. Gentry Williams would be my other pick, as far as we know what kind of athlete he is. We just didn't get to see him a lot out there. That was a CJ Colden special from Texas on last year. So what does Gentry actually look like? Jay Valai has been really happy with his progress. Let's see that on Saturday and see, because I would expect, John, that's the first thing that Arkansas State, while very limited, is going to try and do, is say, we know what Woody Washington is. Let's go try and pick on a couple of young guys opposite of Woody Washington and see how they hold up.
You put some respect on JT Shrout's name, would you? They're going to absolutely.
I will not. I will not put some respect on Mr. 53% completion percentage. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, what's his numbers? 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, or something like that.
Bad. They're bad. The numbers are bad.
Second. So Gentry Williams wins the cornerback job that was up for grabs. Kendall Dolby, the junior college All-American transfer from NEO, is the backup, or true freshman Makari Vickers, That's the guy, seatbelt. That's the guy that I thought when I met him and talked to Wagner in January. That's the guy, Makari Vickers. I thought would be the guy that challenges for playing time, and he has. He's challenging for backup snaps at cornerback. Jacoby Johnson, the other freshman, is the fourth guy on that list. And behind Woody Washington, we mentioned Josiah Wagner, obviously, or Kenai Walker. When you see Kenai Walker, he's one of those get off the bus first guys. He is 6'2", 203, and looks like he's ready to punch a hole in someone's chest. He looks physical. I don't know how he plays in practice. I haven't seen enough practice to know that he's a dominating force or anything, but I'm just saying he looks physical, he looks explosive, he looks athletic, long, fast. He's everything you want out of a cornerback. He's the backup to Woody Washington, along with true freshman Josiah Wagner. So you never know. Something happens. Somebody like that gets on the field. Light clicks on. We saw it last year with C.J. Colden.
Yeah, a really, really young group, which means it could be rough at times, but also means there should be a lot of room for growth for those guys throughout the season. And as that competition, that's one of the spots that Brent Venables is like, yeah, the competition's still going, frankly. We said this earlier, but if there's a mistake or something at TCU, it felt like that was the only time they really were sifting through bodies looking for answers. And then that rotation got cut very, very small. Going to be something to track throughout the year to see if it becomes a just Gentry Williams and Woody Washington play, if you see a couple of bodies in there, what that looks like. Because I think we'll know pretty quickly how happy Oklahoma is with the development behind based off how many guys are able to get in there and kind of split some time.
So we mentioned J.T. Shrout. He's the quarterback at Arkansas State. I don't know if we mentioned Butch Jones, but he's the coach at Arkansas State. You see the Tennessee connection there, right? J.T. Shrout signed with Tennessee out of high school in 2019. Butch Jones had been fired after 2017. So they didn't really cross paths at Tennessee, but I think there was probably a recruiting relationship there or something. So that's who's coming to town on Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff at Owen Field. Ryan, I got some numbers here I want to read to you.
Let's do it. Well, first, are the numbers, do they pertain to McDonald's bags for Mr. Shrout? I don't know if he was involved.
These pertain to John Hoover bags.
Oh, good. I don't know if he was
back. I'm going to impress the viewer, the listener, the reader here for just a second with these statistical numbers. Saturday, 11 a.m. kickoff, Arkansas State, Oklahoma will be my 233rd OU football game to cover.
You're old.
Lee, I've been doing this a long time. 233. Now, not 233 in a row, okay, but 233rd. Now, I say to cover. There were some games that I covered earlier in my career, but just since I've been on the beat in 2004 was when I started. Adrian Peterson's freshman year, Jason White coming off the Heisman. That was my first year. So I've been spoiled. I'm extremely blessed. I'm extremely lucky and extremely privileged to get to do what I do. This is a blast. I was walking around the stadium yesterday. I was looking at the artwork and the Heisman Trophy winners and the All-Americans and the award winners, and I was just like, I'm so freaking lucky. I am just so lucky to be able to do this for 233 games now. Fingers crossed that I make it to Saturday. From 2004 to 2011, I covered 107 consecutive games. I'm currently on a 48-game cover streak, 48-game streak. 48 straight games that I've covered of OU. So Saturday will be my 49th. I'm so thankful that all the listeners, all the viewers, and all the readers have tagged along with me for all these years, ever since 2004. Before I did OU at the Tulsa World, my editor assigned me to cover Oklahoma State as the beat writer for Oklahoma State, 2002 and 2003. OU of course lost that 0-2 game. Coming off the 0-1 game, they lost back-to-back, and then 2003 they came out and beat them 52-9. But I was on the OSU beat during that time, and when I joined when I rotated, editor assigned me to the OU beat. It was a deal where people were just like, John Hoover, well he loves the Cowboys. He's a Cowboy guy. He covers OSU. He doesn't belong here. And so it took me a while to ingrain myself and endear myself, or however it works, to the OU fan base. It took me a while because they saw me coming and they're like, that dude's covering Oklahoma State. All we've ever seen from him is Oklahoma State coverage. So I just want to express how thankful I am to all the readers, all the fans out there who have been behind me. YouTube channel's blown up. AllSooners is the #1 network on the SI Media Group Fan Nation website, the college website, the college network, I should say. We're consistently the #1 website on the network, and it's because of people like you that have jumped on my coverage over the years, as it has changed and evolved and morphed into various different things. The fan base and the readership and the base has just grown and grown and grown. So I just want to express my thanks to all of you guys out there.
And just to illustrate how tough it is to put streaks like that together, I had my consecutive games coverage streak nixed at 24 because Eddie gave me the flu. He tried to kill me in Morgantown, but just little stuff like that pops up all over the place. So to put together a 100-plus streak, to put together, it's going to get over into the 60s by the end of this year, knock on wood, stuff like that. It's hard to do because there's a lot of stuff that can just pop up.
Life happens.
They tried to nix us from getting to Orlando. Like a lot of stuff that does not have anything to do with the job.
I got in my car and filled it up with gas and drove for 17 straight hours. Not a big deal. Did it for you guys, the viewers, the listeners, the readers. So.
And then Josh and I left you for dead in the bowels of the Camping World Stadium. So
right. As I waited for someone to come rescue me, waited for the car club, the auto club, to come and rescue me. It was scary too. That was about as scared as I've been for my life, because I knew Florida man was out there lurking somewhere.
Not the part of Orlando you want to get left in.
No. It's a good streak. It's like, I feel like Bud Wilkinson with the 107 is my 47 straight. And then there's he had another one that was like 31 in a row or something like that. Oh, by the way, while I'm talking about ancient OU history, might as well pitch our Barry Switzer piece. Barry Switzer, September 15th will be his 50th anniversary as the head coach at OU. Marks the 50th year since he was hired as the head coach at OU. We're commemorating that with a series of stories, a series of top 10s. It's 5 top 10s, so we're calling it half 100, 50 years of Barry Switzer at OU. The first one dropped last week. You need to check it out. Just search for Barry Switzer 50 and on Google, and it'll pop up. But last year was the Barry Switzer's 10 best teams, and that was a beast to take on. I started it, and I'm like, this will take a couple of hours. It took a couple of days. Literally, it took like 2.5 days. The next one is going to be the 10 best offensive players. We've got the 10 best defensive players. We've got the 10 best moments, some other stuff coming up to commemorate Barry Switzer's 50th year at OU. Also, I think Othello's is hosting, along with, I believe, the Sports Animal, is hosting an event in Norman, and AllSooners is going to have a couple of people there talking to Steve Owens and talking to Tinker Owens and Marcus Dupree and Billy Sims and guys like that. We'll be there presenting some stuff for you guys as well. That's part of our OU coverage. We're excited about it. We're not going to talk very much about JT Shrout and Butch Jones and the Arkansas State Red Wolves. 3-9 last year. Not very good. Coming to OU, 34.5-point favorite last I saw. 35 now, maybe. 35-point. I said favorite. I mean underdog. So there's not much to it's one of those games where you're just not really interested in the opponent. You're interested in how this team bounces back from 6-7. Ryan, let's finish the segment right there. What does this team do on Saturday to bounce back and to show the fan base it's for real? Can it be done in one Saturday afternoon in Norman?
Whether it's fair or not, it cannot be done in one Saturday afternoon. It won't be done in 2 Saturday afternoons in Norman plus 1 in Tulsa. You referenced it earlier. The team glided through the non-con last year, and it did not matter whatsoever. I think, unfortunately, and this is probably unfair to this group, we're only going to learn bad things, and I think that people are going to be like, well, I'm glad that a good thing happened, but it better happen against Cincinnati and then Iowa State and then Texas for people to really believe.
Yeah. Yeah, the hard part is going to be good things are going to happen Saturday, and everybody's going to get excited, and it's just not going to translate to the Cotton Bowl on October 7th, whenever that is. Yeah, got the schedule right here. Hoover, look at it. Yeah,
Yeah,
October
the
7th.
7th.
It's just not. I really think it's not. You might even get into at Cincinnati on the 23rd of September, and Iowa State. We all know what's going on with the Cyclones. You might get 5 games into this thing and still not know much about your team. So it's going to be hard to get too excited about what you're seeing. I think what you're looking for Saturday is number one, third down stops. Number two, third down passes over the middle being completed. Those are two things that have to happen. If those things aren't happening Saturday, it's a 4 alarm fire. If you're able to do those things, then you say, okay, at least it's not as bad as it was last year. And then you start going into, did they commit a bunch of penalties? Did they hang on to the football? Did they get after ball carriers? Did they hit people? If you see those fundamental things, then I think you can start to feel a little bit better about where this team's going. But don't go crazy and start buying college football playoff tickets just yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't get ready for Nelly in Arlington either until you see a couple of Big 12 games and see how that goes.
Nelly. Ryan, good stuff, man. Appreciate you coming on, as always.
It is a huge day for Brent Venables, though, so he can get back to 500 as a head coach at Oklahoma on Saturday.
That's right. That's right. I bumped into him last night leaving the stadium. He was pulling out, and I was walking across the street from Gaylord to get into my car. He stopped, and he said, "What are you doing here at 10 o'clock at night?" I said, "Brent, that's what I do. We leave." He said, "Press conference was this morning. Practice was this afternoon. What are you doing at 10 o'clock at night?" I said, "This is what we do." He said, "Golly, football's hard on all of us, isn't it?"
Yes, it is.
So I got home a little after midnight, fell right asleep, woke up almost 11 o'clock this morning. Tired.
Sounds ideal. Sounds ideal.
Yeah, tired puppy today. Anyway, we're back at it. Coffee and ibuprofen is a good combination for breakfast, and this thing is rocking and rolling. You did a good job, Ryan. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you. Look forward to
it too. By the way, you and Eddie Ford are 6 to 10 every day.
Yeah, we back. Well, I am in the morning. I'm alongside Eddie Radosevich, and we ride. So I think that all of us, you, me, Eddie, Brent Venables, just looking forward to see what happens Saturday.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Coming up next on the show, Randall Sweet. He's going to jump in, and we're going to talk OU recruiting. You better believe we got some things to talk about. David Stone, one of the top players in the nation, one of the top players in program history. We'll talk about it next on the AllSooners Podcast. Okay, final segment of the AllSooners Podcast. Don't forget, if you like this AllSooners Podcast, just drop us a nice rating. 5 stars is the best. We appreciate it. And whenever you get a chance, if you're on the podcast, if you get a chance to like or share us on social media, if you get a chance to comment, if you're on YouTube, share, rate, subscribe, all that stuff really helps us, really helps the algorithm get the stuff out there to more people so we can have more listeners, so we can get a bigger audience, so we can serve you better. I told you guys in the last segment how appreciative I am to all of you for that. So I want to say thank you again for helping me grow the channel, the podcast, the website, everything. It's been a blast, and I mean that sincerely. All right, Randall joins us. Randall is from parts unknown. I'm guessing a Starbucks somewhere.
I don't know that I should necessarily say the specific business name. No free promo, right?
Gotcha. Okay, no problem. He's outside, so we'll try to cope with that as best we can. Randall, David Stone committed to Oklahoma last week.
Yeah.
If he signs, big defensive tackle out of IMG via Del City, if he signs with the Sooners, he'll be the highest rated defensive player OU has ever signed. We're talking in the online recruiting rankings industry era, right? So Rivals and Scout and 24/7 and On3 and all. Since those guys have been around, he will be the highest ever. That is including Tommy Harris. He'll be ranked higher than Tommy Harris as a defensive prospect, according to 24/7 Sports, who used to be Scout, I think. I probably oversimplified that. There's probably some bean counter right now, blowing a gasket that no, you forgot the contract that we signed in 2011, whatever. David Stone is 6'4", 270. I've seen him listed at 280, but I think he's closer to 270. The dude is a flat-bellied menace when he plays defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, if he was playing. We watched in that St. Joseph's versus IMG game. He was playing on the edge at 6'4", 270 pounds as a high school kid. I mean, that, like you said, is menacing in itself. I mean, we were texting back and forth about the game, and you even said to me, "Good luck trying to block David Stone one-on-one on the edge." I mean, that's just not happening. The dude is too strong. He's too fast, and he will overpower guys. I mean, he physically is a monster. I've seen him not play in person, but I've gotten to see him up close, and I mean, that dude is he does not look like most high school kids. His upper half is really, really built out, really muscular already. I mean, you have to think that IMG Academy with that weight program that they have there, they're really doing a good job of that. And I think that like you said, he's the highest rated defensive recruit that OU's ever gotten, but he is definitely the most impactful recruit probably in general that they've gotten in the past few recruiting cycles. When you consider, the state of the defensive line recruiting, like we've mentioned in the past, them getting left at the altar a few times recently with Nwaneri, with Zadavian Sims, with DJ Hicks, some of those other guys. Getting a commitment, finally being able to close out on that big-time 5-star defensive lineman is huge, and especially because he's from Del City. I mean, you cannot, if you're Oklahoma, let a guy who is from the region, from the city that you're based out of, escape, especially a guy that's that highly rated. When you need guys like that going into the SEC, you cannot let him get out of, even though he's playing in Florida right now, you cannot let him get out of his home state. And seems like the OU coaching staff did a fantastic job of building those relationships and making sure that OU is the place that he wanted to be. I mean, he said it himself that his parents wanted him at Miami, and when he said it after his commitment, that's not even the first time he said that. That's something that we've heard before. Right. And so that's obvious that his family wanted him at Miami, which honestly, in my opinion, makes OU getting that commitment even more impressive, because it's not only are you beating out these other coaching staffs, but you're also beating out his own family that's wanting him to go to this other school. And we've kind of talked that might not necessarily be for on-field or anything against the OU coaching staff. His parents might just want him to experience something new, to get away from Oklahoma City, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a big-time win for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. You need guys like that going to the SEC, and you've said it. He's going to make an impact right away.
Yeah. So the last couple of weeks, I've been lucky enough to watch some defensive linemen really close. Williams Nwaneri came to Tulsa. Kamori Moore, defensive tackle, was with him alongside. For Lee Summit North, came to Tulsa. And then last week I got to see up close Danny Okoye. And, of course, after that we come home and watch David Stone. So I'm like tuned in to what's going on the D-line. David Stone is that rare prospect right now in high school, who when he gets his hands on somebody, I know he's playing against high school kids, but so are these other dudes. That's where the comparison is going. When he gets his hands on somebody and he gets them engaged and pushes them away, he does the swim move, or he knocks their hands down, or he does the bull rush. He's got an array as a 6'4", 270-pound defensive end. I think they played mostly three-man front, 3-3-5 or 3-4. He has an array. He has a dazzling array of pass rush moves and knows how to use his hands. Some of those other guys I talked about, got to watch up close. You can tell some of them don't play with great pad level. You can tell some of them don't play with, real skill in terms of using their hands to generate pass rush or to separate from blocks. David Stone has that toolkit right now where he is equipped mentally with how he wants to approach each snap. Okay, this snap, I'm going to grab the guy's hands. This snap, I'm going to swipe him to the side. This snap, I'm doing a swim move. He knows what he's doing. Now, that's a rare skill for a 17 or 18-year-old kid, and I've got nothing against Nwaneri or Kamori Moore or David or Danny Okoye or any of those guys, but you can tell they haven't picked up, whether it's coaching or just their age or their experience level, you can tell they haven't picked up the finer nuances of it. David Stone, has picked up the finer nuances of it. He's getting coached at a level at IMG, which is very impressive.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that you have to love about getting those players from IMG Academy. In the same class, OU has his teammate who plays right next to him at IMG, Jaden Jackson. Another interior defensive lineman. And kind of to your point about him using his hands, what really stands out to me is playing on the edge when he punches when he shoots his hands up into the chest of that offensive tackle. A lot of times it knocks those dudes back, it puts them on their heels, and that really sets him up to be able to, like you said, swipe a guy's hands away or use a swim move or something like that. And yeah, he's a special player. I think that OU fans are going to love him if Brent Venables and company are able to get him on campus.
Now, Randall, 24/7 Sports had an interview with him and had some quotes from David Stone.
Yeah,
and the quotes from David Stone would make OU fans a little nervous, and you can kind of flip it and say, no, this makes it his commitment even stronger. But I'm going to read the quotes to you. This is from 24/7 Sports. Up until like 3 o'clock when Todd Bates called me, it was Miami. Okay, he was getting ready to go on national TV. He's getting ready to play the season opener on the road at Philadelphia. He's going to sit down at halftime. He's going to turn on the TVs and turn on the lights and turn on the microphones. He's going to make his announcement where he's going. He says up until 3 o'clock that day, before Coach Bates, Todd Bates called him, he said it was Miami. He said, I already had the edit made announcing, on Twitter and Instagram or whatever, I'm going to Miami. He said my family was all for it. I had a conversation with my mom, and I asked her, is it okay if I want to come back home? She didn't really want me to come back home, and I was fine making the sacrifice for her. And if it's not okay for me to come home, I won't do it. The conversation came down to she wanted me to be happy, to make my own decision. This is a big choice for me, and I took her words to heart, and I went with my gut, and I feel like I made the right decision. Are you 100% on board with that? The veracity or the accuracy or whatever of what he's talking about? I mean, he said it, so it's true. We have no reason to doubt it, but at the same time, holy cow, when he reached for the Miami hat and he reached for the other hat, was he actually thinking about it, or is he just kind of playing us on social media like he has been known to do?
I think there might be a little bit of both in that. I think that this is, again, nothing wrong with it. I think this is a guy who does enjoy the process, who does enjoy the recruiting process, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's plenty of guys that do. But again, I think that maybe there was some consideration with Miami, but I think for OU fans who might be worried about those quotes, I think the real thing you need to take away there is he referred to going to Miami as making a sacrifice, and saying that he wanted to be at OU. So if having to go somewhere is him making a sacrifice, that doesn't sound like it's somewhere that he wants to end up or is very eager to go to. Now, if you're OU, we kind of talked about it with Williams and Maneri and Missouri. You have to go out and win games. You can't, let the season fall flat on its face and expect to keep a top-tier defensive lineman like that. And I'm sure Miami is going to be doing just what OU is doing with Maneri, and they're still going to be picking up the phone and calling Stone, especially since they're just down the road.
Now, to be fair to David Stone, he added the quote later in the interview. He said, honestly, even at the table, I was going to reach for the Miami hat. I didn't want to play any games with anybody. I am a genuine person, and I try to express my feelings the best way I can. Honestly, I was going to pick up the Miami hat because I wanted my family to be happy, but I had to be selfish today. I wanted to go to OU. So there's two ways, like I said, two ways to look at that. One is he was torn. He might still go to Miami. He might still flip. The other is he wanted to go to OU. He made the decision for himself. He's selfish. Not he's selfish. I said that wrong. He said it right there. He said, I had to be selfish. He made the decision for himself. I think that when moms and dads start making decisions for where a kid's going to go to college, especially if that kid has massive earning potential like some of these high school football recruits do, that's a tough call. If you're a mom or dad and you're doing that for you probably know what's best because you've lived that life, right? You've brought them along and you've had their best interests at heart. But at the same time, if the kid has something in his heart, has something in his mind, and he wants to do something, I think discouraging that at that stage of their life, you're trying to get them to get up and be, responsible young adults, right? I think discouraging that and saying, no, I think you should do this. I think that's bad for the kid, generally speaking. Not in every case. A lot of times kids have bad influences at home and they need to get out, right? They need to get away from whatever city, whatever neighborhood they grew up in. They need to get away from the influences that they have in their lives in high school or in junior high or whatever. Sometimes they hang around bad people. Sometimes they have rotten friends. And then you, as a parent, know that it's best to get them away from that influence and get them somewhere like a Miami or like a Florida or like an Alabama or whatever, wherever it is. And you're able to, okay, so I don't know if that was the case here. I'm just saying sometimes it is. But generally speaking, when you start saying, I want you to go here because I think it would be better for you, it might be best to just back off and let them be selfish, let them make the decision that they want to make. When you're talking about making a decision, play college football at a place like Oklahoma, that's almost never going to turn out bad. Oversimplifying it, Randall, to say that he changes the future for OU, that was my column that I wrote at AllSooners.com. He changes the future for OU. He's a local kid. You got to get those local kids. He's a guy who's SEC ready. They're going to the SEC next year. And frankly, Will Newary is going to look around and he's going to say, David Stone going to OU. Maybe I should rethink my decision to go to Missouri. Not just Winery, but others. Nigel Smith coming up next week is going to make a call. He may have already made his decision. He may have already decided, you know what, I'm going to OU. But maybe he didn't. Maybe he's looking at this now saying, golly, if I could play next to David Stone for 4 years, what a career I could have. And there's others like Dominic McKinley coming up. Could it be, am I oversimplifying it to say that his decision to go to OU changes the future for the Sooners? I think the future is bright for defensive line at Oklahoma. They've got 2 5-star defensive linemen out of the last 2 recruiting cycles, plus a 5-star safety. The total that Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch signed, total number of 5-stars over that course of time was 0. You and I covered a couple of games last week. We're going to do some evaluations. I'll start. I went and saw Tulsa Noah, the homeschool kid, Danny Okoye, play against Kiefer. Now, Kiefer whipped their butts. Kiefer was Kiefer's kind of a small school tough guy. Kind of they play after the whistle. Not dirty. I'm just saying they play hard constantly. And Noah, it didn't look like Noah was prepared for that level of intensity. The score was 32-0, 40-6 at halftime. I think the final score was 62-36. Noah got blasted. But Danny Okoye, 6'4", 246-pound edge rusher, wide receiver, punter, inside linebacker. Kid does it all. He was fantastic. Oh my gosh. And again, this is playing against a team that is coached to play hard. They play to the edge, and he was out there and they were playing to the edge with him. They were chipping him and hitting him occasionally late, and he would just turn around and look at the ref like, wait, why are you letting this go on? It's just a good example of this guy steps onto this field and he is the prospect. And there's some good players on both teams, but this guy is a 4-star stud. He's going to be on his official visit to Oklahoma this Saturday. He's coming to the season opener against Arkansas State. He's got official visits lined up to Texas on September 16th, and he's going to Tennessee on September 30th. Here's my assessment of Danny Okoye. If he will allow himself to be coached hard in college, he is going to be elite. He does what I noticed on last Friday was he does tend to take a play off here or there. But like I said, it was 32-0. It was the first quarter, and it was 24-0. Okay, so, I mean, they walked out there the first couple of plays. I walked out, and it was 8-0, and as I was walking up to the field, for scoring another touchdown and put in 2 points. So 4 minutes into the game, it was 16-0. They were behind before they even kicked off almost. It was crazy. But here's Danny Okoye. If he allows himself to be coached hard, he's going to be big time. When he flips the switch, Randall, the results are devastating. Ask the Kiefer offensive lineman who was trying to block him. He played multiple positions, as I mentioned. He caught 2 passes for 50 yards, a 20-yarder and a 30-yarder. He caught a 2-point conversion where he just caught a little tunnel screen and just plowed through everybody, which you would expect of someone who's 6'4", 246. He had a fumble recovery. He had a handful of quarterback pressures. He had a handful of tackles for loss. I don't think he had a sack, but he did pressure the quarterback quite a bit. He even punted 2 times. Each of his 2 punts was 50 yards, and both of them landed inside the 10-yard line. The first one, they let it go, and it checked up at like the 9-yard line with like a pitching wedge. It was back spinning, and it hit and backed up into the 9-yard line. It's like, oh my God, there's nothing this kid can't do. He was a wrecking machine on defense. He played mostly right end. He played occasionally left end. A couple of times he rushed the passer as an inside linebacker, which the Noah coach told me, James Ballinger. He said he used him a handful of times at linebacker. It's almost like a linebacker, like a stand-up in the middle, like almost like a stand-up nose guard is what it looked like. He would be over the center, and then he would move over the different 3 technique, and then he would go. And it reminded me, I've talked about this on the podcast already once today, it reminded me of that position that Brent Venables came up with for Dan Cody. Dan Cody, 6'5", 240, out of my hometown, Ada, Oklahoma. Dan Cody was a fantastic defensive end, but Brent Venables said, we need to get more pass rush, so let's move Cody to a stand-up interior D-line. That's what Danny Okoye was doing, and when he did, Kiefer was like, what the hell? Where's he coming from? It was pretty phenomenal. So that's my assessment. He plays with good hand technique, extremely fast. He said he's running a 4.53 right now, but he's trying to get into the 4.4s. He's got a visit coming up to Texas and Tennessee, but he'll be in OU this weekend. He's really good, and he is a fantastic prospect, a 4-star that at times plays an awful lot like a 5-star. Now, Randall, you went back home to Lubbock to see a wide receiver who's already committed to Oklahoma.
The play on the field is phenomenal with him. This is a guy that, big body receiver. Jeff Levy loves those guys. Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, we've seen them get a ton of run in fall camp this year. You'd like to think that, if they perform well, we'll get to see how Levy actually uses them in an OU offense. And I think that's exciting because I think Yvonne could really play a similar role to what we think those 2 guys will do. And afterwards, he also told me that he's working really hard to graduate in December so he can enroll in January, be an early enrollee, which will help him get on the field as a freshman, with that size, that speed. If he's able to get there early, you have to think that maybe he could find a role early on in his career.
He looks physically ready to play, and I tell people this story. It made me understand, made me realize what we're talking about here. As a high school football player, I was a sophomore in high school. I was starting my sophomore year, or I was finishing my freshman year, going into my sophomore year. 5'10", 148, 150 pounds, playing cornerback, right? And at the same time, February 1982, I think it was, Marcus Dupree committed to OU out of Mississippi, 6'3", 230 pounds as a running back. And I thought about that for a second. As a little kid, I pictured the visual in my head, right? A 15-year-old cornerback, 5'10", 150, trying to tackle somebody like Marcus Dupree, who was, also in high school at the time, had just finished his senior season. I'm just like, that's not fair. That's not fair. And so that reminds me of what you're talking about with Yvonne. All right. Thank you guys for listening again from the bottom of my heart. 233 OU games I've covered on this beat. 49 straight will be Saturday. I am thankful to you all, the listeners. And if you're watching on YouTube, the viewers. And if you're reading on the website, AllSooners.com, I appreciate that as well. We'll be back next week with the AllSooners podcast. No, I'm wrong. We'll be back Saturday night from the press box, certified fresh, with the next version, episode 203 of the AllSooners podcast. You can catch that one and all of our shows on Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, or just about anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you have an Amazon-enabled device, just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners podcast. It's also posted on our website, allsooners.com. Just click on the player and listen on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. And, of course, all of our shows are posted on my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media. For Ryan Chapman, for Randall Sweet, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.